Hi, I'm Bruce Morrison from MotorActive, and today I'd like to talk to you about designer wraps, style and protection by 3M. If we look at the wrap concept, commercial wraps have been around for well over 10 years, and basically they took over from sign writing, where you actually had to paint different graphics onto a commercial vehicle. So these white vinyl films were printed on through a special printer, and then used a clear overlaminate applied to the finished job to protect those printed areas. Still a very big part of the business. If we look at the second phase of wraps, these were architectural films. They were textured instead of being white and printed on, so they could be installed straight up. They were used in all kinds of architectural applications, in buildings and office fit-outs, for example. They were never designed for automotive use, but they did find their way into automotive applications, despite the limitations of the technology. A lot of the knockoff films you see in today's market in the automotive sector really come from these architectural areas, but they have lots of limitations like permanent adhesive, lack of conformability, and so on. If we look at the third phase of vehicle wraps now, which we call designer wraps, these are films that have been specifically designed for automotive use. In most cases, they are textured or plain but coloured. And we describe these designer wraps as highly advanced vinyl film that's a genuine alternative to paint. If you look at the features of the 3M designer wrap program, a key part of this is the control tack adhesive. And adhesives form a huge part of how you apply films to either automotive or many other applications. The control tack adhesive is dry applied, so instead of having to wet down an area and squeegee out the air bubbles and moisture and so forth so you could reposition the film, these can go down dry and yet remain repositionable. Another key feature of the control tack adhesive in our 3M films is these incredible air release channels. So when you lay down film on a surface, the easiest thing to happen will be to trap air, and the air has to go somewhere, otherwise it will bubble. So what happens with these films that are designed for these applications allows you to, if you like, squeeze out the air through invisible air channels that are built into the adhesive. The air runs all the way to the edge and out of the film. Otherwise, once that air heats up outside, once it gets some temperature into air, it expands, and you might think you've got a small bubble, end up with a large bubble or crease. The third key feature in our control tack adhesive on our 3M films is the fact that they're designed to be removable. Now, this is very important. If you lay down film on a car, you will want to take that off one day, whether to sell the vehicle or change the design. So this becomes a really important attribute of the product, that when you want to take it off, it's easily removed. That means the film and all the adhesive comes off clean with no remaining residue. If it doesn't do that, it's a major hurdle to get that film back off the car again, or clean up the residue with solvents and so forth, and that can also damage your paint. If you look at the key features of the film itself, as I said, these are effect textures or colours. It gives you a great range of products to choose from, where you can combine colours and different textures in a two-tone finish, for example. But importantly, these films actually are highly conformable and stretchable. And as you'll see in the application, this is really, really important, because the curves on a car can tilt both ways. So when you're looking to pull the film over an area that curves in two directions, it has to conform and has to have a certain amount of stretch. Another key feature of the film itself is how long lasting the film is. Many films are actually designed for quite temporary use, but these for automotive applications are getting up with the life of paint. There's even a full 5-year warranty on our designer wrap program. So now we're going to go over to Alex and Mick and show you how it's done.
Thanks, Bruce. Well, what we've got going on here now is we're going to wrap what we call a standard or a basic panel using our panel pack. What we mean by standard or basic is that it's a shape that's pretty flat, very even. There's no complex curves or cutouts or anything too intricate. So again, the importance here is using a wax and grease remover to remove any contamination. As you can see there also, Alex is getting in and under the seals because we're going to plan to tuck the vinyl in and under the seal, so you want to make sure that there's no contamination, again, which may cause lifting or delamination of the vinyl. Once the surface has been cleaned with the wax and grease remover, you need to follow using the IPA. It's designed to remove the residue that may be left behind from any wax and grease remover. Again, just like you did with the wax and grease remover, make sure you go over the entire surface that the film's going to come in contact with, and make sure you get underneath any trims or moulds to prevent delamination or lifting of the vinyl. Now that the surface has been prepared, we've waxed and greased and used the isopropyl alcohol or IPA. We're going to lay down the knifeless tape. This roof, unlike a lot of standard cars, doesn't have channels in the roof, so what Alex is doing here is using the knifeless tape and following the natural hip or line on the roof as a guide. If you have a standard car with roof channels, you can remove the roof channels. You won't need the use of the knifeless tape. Once the knifeless tape is in position, run your thumb or your finger across it to make sure that it's pressed down and in place prior to laying vinyl over the top. The size of our panel packs is 1.8 metres by 1.52, and on this roof it's a lot smaller than the average sedan. So what the guys are doing here are measuring first before they attempt to lay the vinyl down. They're going to cut it down to size to make it a little bit more manageable when they're installing the vinyl onto the roof. We always recommend when handling a panel pack or trying to install one, get the help or assistance of a friend. Any hands made light work. Now the guys have measured out the size of film that they need to put on the roof, so they're going to measure it out and then cut the size. You want to make sure when you're measured up that you do allow for overhang. You don't want to cut this to the centimetre. As you can see from here, now that the guys have cut the panel down to size, there's quite a big piece left over. Ideal for maybe doing a stripe on the bonnet, spoiler, you might want to do bits and pieces on the interior, but please don't let it go to waste. Now that it's been cut down to size, again, just run the sheet over the roof to double check that the size is right before you look to pull the backing off. Again, pull the backing off the film. Take your time. You don't want to put any creases. Let the film touch itself or gather. And make sure when you do pull the backing off that you're ready to put the vinyl down. You don't want to leave contaminants in the air that may get underneath the vinyl. Apply a fair amount of tension to each corner of the film. You want to try and get this down as flat as possible with minimal creases. This makes the whole process that little bit easier. With the vinyl down and in place, starting from the centre working your way along, use the applicator that comes in the kit to push the air out. Again, this is the really important part about this product, is these invisible air channels that allow any air that may be trapped between the paint surface and the vinyl to find its way out to the edge, eliminating any problems. Excessive pressure doesn't need to be applied, and take your time. So you'll see here that one of the technology of this film is allows it to be repositionable. So if there's a little gather or a spot that doesn't look quite right, with a little bit of pressure you can just lift it up, use your squeegee, push the air out and lay it back down. This is a dry applied film. There's no need for water or lubricant with this. Highly conformable, so it works brilliantly around curves or shapes. You don't necessarily need to use the squeegee in the kit. You can use your hand if you feel more comfortable with that. Just a tip though, Please remove all jewellery. You don't want to put any scores or marks or scratches into the job. With the designer wrap now in place, we recommend that you run a heat gun or a hairdryer over the complete surface to look for any air that may be trapped or hasn't been pushed out. What will happen is any air that may be trapped will expand, causing a bubble. And it's simply a matter of running the squeegee or tapping it down with your finger, and it'll work itself outside to the edges. If you don't do this, any air that's trapped once you've folded the vinyl over an edge or fully sealed the edges will be trapped, may cause delamination of the film down the track. So for any bubbles like this one you can see here, just simply press down with your finger gently, and through the magic of these invisible air release channels, the air will find its way out. With all the air removed from the flat surface of the roof, we're just moving on now using the knifeless tape to trim around the seal. We're leaving a little bit of overhang here. The knifeless tape's perfect for a job like this, rather than trying to run a blade along the mould or seal and cause unwanted damage. You'll notice there is a little bit of excess above the seal that we're going to lift the seal back, tuck it underneath. Knifeless tape, there is a little bit of a trick to use it. You fold the film back on itself, push down with your finger and give it a tug. As the cutting core gets close to the vinyl, push down and then gently pull along. And what it's doing is it's cutting up through the underside of the vinyl to give you a cut as good as a blade without any damage or unwanted core. Any unwanted damage caused to the paint surface. Peel away the excess and then you remove carefully and gently the 2 layers of green tape from the knifeless. With the tape removed, just run your finger along the edge to make sure that it's not lifted up. Just remember when you're trimming, guys, it can make or break the job. Really give it some thought before you start laying into the vinyl with a blade. Once you've cut it, it's pretty hard to get it back together. Here, Alex is just running the blade along in the valley. Once he's trimmed the excess off, using the applicator again that comes with the kit, tuck it in and under the seal for the perfect job. Just a little tip when you're looking to put the vinyl up and underneath the seal like Alex is doing here, is use a credit card or a rigid piece of plastic to push the seal back and then tucking the vinyl in behind as he's doing here. Be careful and take your time. Just working the mould and the vinyl along piece by piece. Don't rush it. You don't want it to gather or catch on itself. With it all trimmed and tucked under the front and rear seals, it's time to give it a clean. So you wipe it over with the IPA that you used to prepare the surface originally. Spray it on, wipe it off with a microfiber towel, and that's it, you're done. For those of you that want to stand out from the crowd, we're going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to use a combination of films with the knifeless tape to give you something very, very unique. Once again, as we did earlier, preparation is the key. Wax and grease the area, any underside lips, followed by the isopropyl alcohol or IPA. Remember to use a microfiber cloth. Clean the area thoroughly. So we've already measured and pre-cut this piece of vinyl to suit the bonnet. Again, remembering to peel the backing away from the film without it catching or gathering on itself. You don't want to crease or mark it in any way, shape or form. Then with the help of a friend, grab each corner, apply a mild amount of pressure, and you want to try and lay the sheet down as flat as you possibly can. What we're going to do here is we're going to lay down the matte apple green first from our panel pack, a retail panel pack. We're going to overlay it with some stripes and some carbon fibre. Okay, so as you can see here, one of the advancements of the technology involved is its ability to conform It'll be stretched to go around the curves. Again, the key here is to try and get it as flat as you possibly can before you look to use your applicator to remove any air that may be trapped underneath. Just pushing the air out. No need to force it. Forcing it can only scratch it or mark the vinyl, something you don't want to do. And just work the air, moving from the centre to the right or the left, whatever suits you. When you're finished on one side, start from the centre and work outwards on the opposite side. You're going to see here in a second a really good example of how this vinyl conforms to the shape. You'll see as Alex works the squeegee. That it's working itself down into the contour of the body shape of the panel. Using a heat gun or a hairdryer, which will take a little bit longer. Again, you want to heat over the surface, make sure there's no trapped air. Any trapped air that gets touched by the heat from the heat gun will expand, making it visible. It's just a matter of tapping it out to remove the bubble. Now that the vinyl's down flat on the panel, he's just running the trim. So again, just trimming, approximately 8 to 10 millimetres. Carefully, be mindful not to touch the paint or any trim or moulds that may be underneath. Then just with your thumb, rolling it from the top of the edge under. Get a nice uniform finish. When you are folding on the underside, you can overlap the film on top of itself. Now that we've got the bonnet wrap fully in the matte apple green, we're going to overlay it with the carbon black. What he's doing here now is using the badge as the centre line with a piece of tape to give an idea of where to work, and laying out the knifeless tape for the stripes that are going to be present in the final finish. So with the tape in the centre now, he's got his guide point. He's going to lay down the knifeless tape along the outer edges of this. With this design that he's going to do this afternoon, it's going to be a large centre stripe followed by a thinner stripe on either side. Now we're using tape here as a guide for thickness. You don't need to use that. You can use a piece of cardboard as a template, or you can just use a tape measure as you go. We just find that a little bit easier, a little bit quicker to use the masking tape as a guide. It's not there forever, again, only as a guide. Run your finger over the knifeless tape to make sure that it is down. Very, very important when we're going to overlay with another vinyl. As you can see here, it does look a bit messy. He does know what he's doing, I hope. We're going to have a wide centre strip, followed by a carbon fibre line, followed by a green line to the extremities being carbon. Bit hard to picture, but work with us here. All the lines are down. Interesting, be visual here. But we've cleaned the surface with IPA because we're about to overlay carbon fibre black on the top of this, and then pull through the knifeless tape to give us our striping. Again, with the aid of a friend, moderate tension on each corner. It's important to get it as flat as you possibly can. Just makes the process all that much easier. So you'll see there's a few creases there, but the Control Tack adhesive technology allows you to lift up, reposition the film. It's not a contact adhesive, so the minute it's on, it's not stuck for life. One of the keys to this product is definitely the adhesive technology. You can see now as he's using the applicator, the air coming out, but also you can see the knifeless tape visible on the underside. It's important to make sure, as with the rest of the panel, that all the air is released, it's pushed down. Remembering to start from the centre, working your way along the panel, right to left or left to right, whatever suits you, to the outside. When you've finished one half, go back to the centre and work it to the opposite side of the vehicle. So now we've removed the knifeless tape, it's time to peel back to see the stripes have been created. Now for the final unveil, centre stripes. So the last piece in the puzzle, the last process to do, is to give it a final wipe over again with the isopropyl alcohol or IPA, your microfiber towel. Just to give it a final clean and remove any fingerprints or marks because you've had your hands all over it while you've been applying it.